right now, right? And in the context, therefore, despite being an HR professional, I started getting into this topic last couple of years. I'm really enjoying the space and trying to add to my knowledge day in, day out in terms of the advancements, right? And AI, I think, is the buzzword right now. I think everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon. A lot of surveys are being done to say which company is ready, who wants to be picking up AI and deploying solutions versus who does not. And a large portion of the industry is saying that they are willing to look at AI as one of the solutions when it comes to their business situations, and they want to invest into it. Only a few have said that maybe, and when I say few, it's really like less than 20% who feel that AI may not be an immediate or appropriate solution for them, but rest everybody feels that AI is the place to go. I was also attending World Economic Forum's session on how AI is going to change the landscape in the near future, which is currently held in China as we are speaking, right? 2027. That's where the whole panelists, a lot of leaders in many other space, but especially AI are setting together and talking about what is going to happen in this space. So in the panel discussion, one of the panelists said that I feel that AI will still take some time, and it'll be like maybe 20-30 years from here that it can really come closer to human intelligence. Contrary to that, there is another panelist who said that we are living in the world where more than 90, actually he said 99%, but I'm really reluctant to say that. So, but maybe, right, 99% of the solutions will come from AI, and only 1% would be human intelligence required in a given industry, like he mentioned. And we'll be living in the world, and it's not too far away as per him. Right. So if you go through the LinkedIn and search for World Economic Forum discussion on how AI is changing the landscape, you will hear their thoughts, and those are very, very interesting and starking thoughts, right? I mean, and if I look back at my own experience, I started talking about AI a couple of years back, maybe, but if I look back only last 7-8 months, I think there was a tremendous shift from talking about AI to talking about generation AI, right? Gen AI, and then Gen AI has become the buzzword right now. And I guess if I ask all 70 plus people on the call, everybody would say that, yes, I have used Gen AI. Right. So I've used Gen AI, I think. The technological shift is also drastic. And why did it happen, right? It happened because the computing power of our basically our computers have really become it has really expanded, and now thanks to quantum computing we are able to do many uh, work really fast, right? I mean, the calculations are faster, the outcome, the development, knowledge, research. AI was like a research topic, and now it is that you are able to do many things because quantum computing has come into place and the processing speed is increased. You have large processors who can help you manage large data, and you can really do something about it, right? Which is linking together, taking decisions, thinking and wanting to be like human and therefore intelligent, right? So that's what AI is all about. This is the space. I thought I'll set a little bit of context. So I'm going to cover some essentials of AI today. I'll share a presentation where you can see, that I'll cover. So we have divided the whole session into two parts. Today we will cover the essentials of AI, what are the subfields, what are their definitions, what should you explore in this area. And if you are already a technical person, it will help you understand, put together the thoughts, maybe serve as a refresher if you're not a technical person and you're thinking, right, whether should you get into AI or not, right? Whether only an AI technical person can get into an AI field or not. I think it will serve as a session which can help you take that decision. So if quickly can some of you put on chat how many of you are already technical and working on AI versus others who are non-technical yet to get into this area. If you can see some responses on chat. Wonderful. So I think it's a mix. We have a couple of folks who are learning AI, who are working on AI, and some of them who really have to start their journey. All right, and non-technical but upskilling in AI, getting into technical field. I'm a non-technical planning to get into technical field. Awesome. So great, wonderful. So I think some of you who are already working on AI, I'll request you to think about the areas where you have used AI, and when the time comes and I request you, please try and share those examples here also on the chat. So right now, but we will go to the presentation and start seeing at least the essentials of AI. So let me know once you're able to see the screen and basically a presentation. Are you able to see the screen and a presentation?
Yes, Avantika.
Just one second. All right, so here we are, and I'm in the presentation mode. I hope you are able to see it. So given that we know a little bit, I think some of the definition type and examples are to be seen, and it's important that we understand AI. If we are working on it, then I guess a lot of answers would be known. If we are not, then it'll serve as something. So there is a lot of misconception or myth, I should say, that a lot of everything is AI, right? So everything is not AI. You can see that when it comes to artificial intelligence, definitely it's a concept where machine and computer think or stimulate human intelligence, right? Or human interactions, which is what we are seeing in our, at home, most of us have Alexa. In our phone, we have Siri, we have Google, hello Google, right? Ask Google anything. So these are already existing examples in our daily work, personal lives. At workplace, we may be having a chat bot or, some of the tools that are coming up and helping us get faster response to the questions we have. But everything is not AI. Everything out of it may not be AI. Some of the overlaps between a robotics and artificial intelligence may exist. Some robots may not use artificial intelligence, right? Maybe a robot is only made to deploy a particular activity, and then it may not be an AI. For example, if you've heard the story of Amazon using robots to pick up the stuff and put it in the respective shelves in their warehouses, then those robots use AI. But in a company, you may also use robots to deliver, treat your guests, welcome them, deliver water, take care of first few queries, and that may not be an AI, right? And similarly, even when it comes to digging deep in the field of subfields of AI, machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, you will see that a lot of it is a combination of AI, but some of it may not be. So when it comes to pure play algorithms, not necessarily everything is an AI. Similarly, so these are overlapping terms, and we need to understand what are these terms, right? So I think some of you may already know, but let us see how deep can we get into the conversation. So when it comes to artificial intelligence, like we saw, machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, computer vision are widely used terms. So I will explain that what that is. A machine learning is where the machine, basically we use machine to be thinking in terms of algorithms, right? Or models, as we say. So computers learn using these models or algorithms, and then they start making predictions or decisions. A very, very simple example is in your mailbox, you know how the mails are getting into spam mailbox or the actual mailbox, depending on some of the parameters applied. This could be an ML model, because in the algorithm, you have defined some parameters saying if this happens, classify the mail as spam or non-spam, right? So this is one example of machine learning. The other is deep learning. Deep learning is basically a subset of machine learning, right? So where machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence, deep learning is a subset of machine learning. It works on artificial neural networks. Now, just to give you a sense of what are neural networks, it is based on the concept that our brain has neurons. They talk to each other and send messages across the neurons so that our body can function, like, raise the hand, blinking of the eye, and thinking and decision making, right from the minimal task to anything that our body can do. So our neurals in brain are being replicated in science as artificial neural network, and then neurons, the node between the neural basically transfer messages across, and they help the input data then gets refined based on a lot of algorithms, and the outcome is based on a lot of neural networks. So this is how the deep learning works. The simplest example is out of lot of image classifications, classifying whether it's an image of a car or a dog or a cat or a building. Right now, you would say, why do we have to do that? So today, computer cannot recognize on its own. How computer reads it? It reads it in the bytes, right? So every byte is a data for computer, and computer is able to read it. But to make a sense of that byte and consolidate all the bytes into something is something which is now achieved with the help of deep learning and computing power that the computer is able to say. Otherwise, we had to classify the photo. The computer could throw a photo and we had to classify it as cat, but now computer can identify it as a cat, right? So there is a progress. Similarly, computer vision is the field of artificial intelligence in computer science, where it basically interprets and understands the visual information of the world. A simple example is, the new technology that Google launched, where if you span your camera around, you are able to see what place it is, and it is able to throw then the information around or the path to that location and stuff like that. Similarly, you would have seen that when Facebook, right? On Facebook, we upload our pictures. It is able to recognize our face and is able to immediately point out this is Avantika and there are other people, and is able to pop out the names of the people as an example and say whether you want to tag them, right? So this is how computer vision works. And then we have natural language processing. Natural language processing is basically a subfield of AI, right? It is a subfield of AI, which is the way where computers interact with human in a natural language form. I write to a chatbot saying, where can I find, like, for example, now all the telecom providers have deployed, all the banks have deployed chatbots, right, on their website. So if I need answer to a query, I go to the chatbot and type something on the chatbot and say, can you help me with this, right? It could be as simple as, tell me what's your policy on closing the SIM card, or versus working with the chatbot to close your SIM card, right? So right up to, you must have experienced all these, right? So this is how it works. Or the Google translator. So Google translates, the text into another language, one language to another using NLP. And now a lot of progress is also happening in the space of natural language processing, where, say, voice, text, everything is, whatever humans can produce, the computer is able to interpret, understand, use it for communicating, decision making, generating better outcomes, reading, right, etc. So a lot of it is happening. So these are various subfields of artificial intelligence. Any questions, please feel free to either type in the chat box, and I'll request someone to point it out because I am not seeing the chat regularly. So if there's an important question, please stop me. All right, so this is the quiz time. There are two questions, so we'll go by the first one first. Can we answer what is artificial intelligence is all about? What's the answer? Playing a game on the computer, making the machine intelligent, programming on machine with your own intelligence, putting your intelligence in the machine. Okay, so I think most of you have given the right answer. It is the second point, which is making the machine intelligent. That's what we understood. So a lot of data, a lot of inputs go in to enable the machine to think or act like a human. Nowhere close to human though, but yes. And can anyone tell me who is the inventor of AI? Okay, someone said both 2, 3, 2, 2. Okay. So the right answer of the second question, which is who is the inventor of artificial intelligence, is basically John McCarthy. John McCarthy in 1950s wrote a white paper on saying that one day machines will think like human. This was his the crux of the paper he published. It was a research paper, and then from 1950s to today, really like a couple of years back, artificial intelligence has been part of a research, but now it is coming into a good shape. Alan Turing is a very important name, and we need to know him because he was the one who created the machine which could pick up a lot of cues and take decision based on those cues. Basically, these cues are data. So Alan Turing basically is can be considered as an inventor of machine learning, right? Artificial intelligence is a concept much ahead of that, long time back. Whereas Alan Turing comes into picture when we think about the war of, I think, UK versus Germany, when he made that machine and tried to predict what would Germany's act be to as an outcome of that war, right? Yes, World War II. That is right, Nimita. So that is where Alan Turing comes in. So these are the two important names of history which we need to know. They did something about it, and today we have it in place, right? So thanks for participating in the quiz, and we move on. Like I said, there is a lot of research which is going on for a number of some AI could come into being, but there's lots still in the research. So we have already heard things like IBM's Deep Blue or AlphaGo defeating the world champions in the respective games, right? And IBM's Deep Blue is really as old as 1997, right? So it's like, I guess, more than 20 years, 30 years right now. So it's not a new concept. That's the first thing. But it is a very, very restricted kind of an AI where the task is limited to the activity the AI is able to do, right? Here, this AI will not be able to learn from past experiences or adapt to the newer situation, but is able to work around the set of things and is able to execute that. So these are called reactive machines. A limited memory AI system is someone that can learn from historical data, but don't have any memory to keep it for say no longer terms. They do learn and move on and learn in the continuous stream of data. Like, for example, self-driving cars. So they navigate around, right? They navigate the area around the car when it is really driving in the real scenario and is able to produce outcomes saying how much of distance you have to keep between the two vehicles using the sensors, and not to get into an accident, or when to apply brakes, and also self-drive it, right? Without drivers instructions, it is able to drive itself. And a lot of use cases you must have seen, right? For example, Uber has a lot of self-driving cars in US, I think Pennsylvania, where there are no drivers and the cars basically take the passengers around. There are use cases around pizza delivery getting delivered. Yeah, I would love to hear Waymo example from you, Asta. So yes, if you can type it bit more, I think it will really be useful for others in audience also. So pizza delivery through a driverless car, right? A pizza getting delivered in US with a driverless car, a use case most of us have heard, right? So these are things in place, but theory of mind is a very, very powerful concept. It says that one day AI will have emotions like us. All right, thank you, Asta, for clarifying. It'll have emotions like us, it'll have beliefs and thought process like human, and that is what is considered right now as hypothetical. But a lot of work is going on when it comes to theory of mind. So this is another type of artificial intelligence, a self-aware AI, right? This is also hypothetical, not yet realized. It will be something where the artificial intelligence will have its own self-awareness, and they will be able to recognize themselves. I think there's a very interesting movie, Her, where if you've seen that or you want to see it, basically where the AI evolves to the stage that they feel, oh, we are more intelligent than human. We need to leave them behind, go to another planet. Okay, just a gist of movie, but sharing. Who knows that future may come by, right? And that will be our self-aware AI, who basically understands and is able to gauge the environment and is able to do it'll have its own consciousness. What we see today, right, is mostly the weak AI. The weak AI, or how it is called, artificial narrow intelligence, is basically the one examples that we talked about till now, which is like the chatbots, the Apple and Alexa, Siri and Alexa, basically a AI that performs narrow tasks, right? So there are very, very strong cases, and I think we have seen this for a number of years between us. Suddenly, there is a spike or surge in the area of artificial general intelligence. Now, once again, I would say that AGI has not reached the stage that it will, right? I mean, the strong AI or artificial general intelligence, but first few steps have been taken, which is in the shape of the ChatGPTs, Gemini, the large learning models that have come into being. So this, I would say, in my view, is the beginning era of artificial general intelligence, and soon it's also, there's a lot of still progress going on, a lot of research going on, where we're trying to improve and see how AI could understand itself, what is that is to be done, and apply that knowledge across say industry, across use cases, across situations, across personal professional lives, and take some intelligent human decisions, right? So right now we are able to see ChatGPT, Gemini, and Copilot. I'm sure all of us have used those, and those are like immediately available. Those are beginning stages of artificial general intelligence. An artificial super intelligence, as it is perceived, right, would be an intelligence which will surpass the human intelligence in everything, like creativity, problem solving, emotional intelligence, and that is again an area of research, currently hypothetical, not yet realized. So these are the ways we see AI around us. Any thoughts, any inputs, anything that you want to say, share? Feel free to share your inputs on chat. Any questions, anything that you want to, are you liking it? Are you fascinated about it? Okay, I see no thoughts are coming, but it is time for a chat question, right? A quiz question. So can you share what is GPT in ChatGPT and what kind of AI it is? I think I answered the second question already, but if you can expand GPT. Okay, it's generative AI. But what is GPT? Can you expand GPT? G, P, and T. What does GPT stands for? No, so it is like we said, GPT is an artificial general intelligence, and it is generative pre-trained transformer. Thanks, Kirtana and I guess Shweta, who responded. So generative pre-trained transformers basically means, and we're going to look at it in our next class, not today, because we want to cover a lot of things and may not be possible to cover everything today. So thank you for answering generative pre-trained transformers. It means that an AI model or a general intelligence, which is generative, it is able to produce text, right? Or materials like, pictures and data and charts and all that. So it's able to produce text. It is pre-trained on a lot of data, right? Like I said, computing power has really made it easier, and therefore we are able to train our models on a lot of data, trillions of data, if I have to really talk about it. And transformers are basically a way of processing the language, right? So this is how generative pre-trained transformers are. There's a very interesting a white paper, research paper called Attention is All It Needs. Attention is All It Needs. I guess it is one of the Google employee who's into research has written that, and it basically indicates that attention is a concept that runs transformers. So please read that in your free time, and maybe next class, if anyone wants to share any learning out of that, that will be really useful. So thank you for sharing the answer. And like I said, so ChatGPT is GPT in ChatGPT is generative pre-trained transformers, and it is a artificial general intelligence, a strong AI, first step in the area of strong AI, right? So you recall this slide. All right. So moving on. So we have been saying that yes, a lot is happening, a vast amount of data. So let us understand how this is different, right? I mean, we see that there are a lot of AI applications in the picture. So when we will see the use cases, you'll say, oh yeah, HRMS always used to exist. So why do you need to now use AI, for example? So traditional platforms always were vendor driven, right? A vendor used to hold it. It had a lot of pages and tabs like an internet website or like the HRMS I talked about, or any other business tools that you can think of right now. So it was a traditional platform. When it was a traditional, it was vendor driven application, and the data was restricted. Mostly it was a data within the organization. And then it was able to produce, say, a couple of analytics. It was able to analyze and give you the outcome that you were really looking forward to. Whereas when it comes to AI platforms, AI-driven platforms, right, which is where we see a lot of progress happening, the basic difference is the amount of data and the output that it is able to. And say, for example, for a traditional platform, when the data was coming from within the organization, the restriction was it'll be on an Excel, for example, mostly, right, or at best on Word. But today, data can come from any source, and those sources could be voice, it could be pictures, it is text, definitely, it is numbers, it is an Excel, it is a PDF, it could be just any source that you can think of, internet and all that. Rihanna, I'll see how best can I save it, but all this is available on internet, so you don't have to really worry about my presentation, but definitely your contribution will make it enriching. So that's the answer, Rihanna. But coming back, like I said, there's a lot of sources now from which the data can be put to use in terms of a generation of, for example, training of the ChatGPT, for example, right? Or any other Gemini, that any of the large learning one is able to then train the model and then able to index and put together a lot of AI models together. It is also able to put many other models together and then is able to throw insights and queries. And therefore, it's not only a chart, for example, or a number or an outcome that is important in an AI platform. It is a decision making, right? AI is able to not only predict. So earlier platform would say, okay, this is how your attrition trends. This is how your business revenue comes in. This is how the charts and numbers of your business looking like. But today it is not only able to say that, it is also able to say, if this, then what, right? If the trending is like this, when can you cross your break even? When can you achieve your 1 billion target? When can you earn a lot of revenue? What should you do differently for your employees? They have been trending like this for last. What do we do for one individual employee, one individual customer, right? Because both could be different than many other employees or many other customers. So this is how AI is much ahead, much advanced, runs on a lot of other data points which were earlier not possible to look at, right? I mean, we would say, oh, we had Excel able to upload on HRMS, but what about my data in PDF? Now, PDF is also, it's something AI can read and upload and analyze and all that. So I'm doing my research on AI for leadership in information technology sector. And today, when I go and read my research paper for my own reference, the research which being done, I don't really spend time reading all, 50, 60 pages. I just run the Copilot, get a crux of it, and I'm able to get whether at least first place this document is relevant for me or not. If the Copilot in the PDF, right, which is already embedded, Microsoft, I think, has really taken away the game from everybody else by integrating Copilot into their Explorer, into any of the tools that they use, which is still not the case with ChatGPT, right? It is still outside. But yes, I mean, you can still integrate the higher version like ChatGPT 3.0, 4.0 has become free. But if beyond that you want to do it, you need to pay and maybe buy. But Copilot, right? Copilot is really changing the game. So I just do that. I look at it and say, oh, this one is not relevant. Let me not read this one, right? But the other one, maybe I say, oh, this is very interesting, close to my topic. Let me read this one fully because I need to identify gaps in the research and then deliver that research for upcoming, for upcoming decision making for other researchers, for other people who would like to explore this area, and so on and so forth. So this is how AI has really transformed the game, and this is thanks to the computing power, the various data sources it can read, and it can give you an outcome in a more understanding way, in a more understandable way, a more more closer to human comprehension, right? So that's the way that the two are different. Um, Before I jump into AI use cases, I wanted to understand if there is any question. Are you okay with this? Is it getting too heavy, or are you fine with that? Okay. All right. Asta and Sujata for replying. Thank you. Now is the time for those who said that they are already working on AI and may have a couple of use cases to share. So before I get into my slide, if you can, so Khushbu says, tell Copilot more. Khushbu, do you want to know about Copilot more? Is that what you are saying? Okay. So maybe towards the end, we'll go to one of the Explorer pages and see how Copilot works. Maybe on one of my on one of the areas where I am doing the research, I can show you one paper, and we can see how it gives the summary, etc. Might come in handy, and we can actually. I wanted to do it next time because we are going to learn large learning models in our next class and not today. But we will see what can be done depending on how much time we have. Okay. So I was referring to those participants who have worked on AI and have any use cases to share. If you can quickly, type in some. Um, okay, we have something. Let us see what we have now. Recruitment portal, integrated ChatGPT API, and also Hugging Face transformer models into recruitment portal for various functionalities. Validated descriptive written test response to improve the assessment process during the initial candidate filtering. Very good. Extracted candidate profile data and skill set. What is the name of the tool, if you can share, Payaswani? I'm hoping, but Payaswini is still typing. My previous company in-house product shortlisting. Wow. Okay, great. And was it for internal use of the company, or was it something the company was selling it to its customer? And while Payaswini is even, yes, and even for the customers. Thank you for that, Payaswini. I hope I'm taking your name correctly, and thank you for adding this. Very useful. Any other use cases? I'm really looking for someone from financial services side, from banking side, from healthcare side, right? A lot of use cases will be there if you don't want to type, you can request Avneet to unmute you, and we can even see if you want to speak. I mean, I totally understand. I don't want to write too much a lot of times, right? So if you don't want to write, please request to unmute and we can do that even. But please do share.
Payaswini, you can talk now.
Hello, ma'am.
Hey.
Yeah, yeah. As I already, informed,
Yep.
we have used these many, what do you call the AI integration with our existing portal. It's my previous company, so we are still. I mean, they are using in-house as an in-house product as well as for the customers.
Yes, you have shared. Thank you, Payaswini. I was looking for more examples and yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Sure. Thank you. No problems. And thanks for coming online and sharing your voice with us. It really is useful to hear you. Swati says Excel Q, Catalan Studio, QA tools have worked on chatbot which were driven by GenAI. Okay, interesting. Swati, do you want to talk about it? What is the tool all about? Maybe it will be of use to other fellow members. If yes, okay, she says sure. Avneet, would you be able to
Yes, she is.
unmute Swati?
Yeah. Hi. Thanks, everyone. So I had worked on few tools which were specific for QA. So these tools help us, writing the code in the NLP, like natural language, and transform this with the multiple, like on the backend coding. This is one example. Other was in many of the projects we have used chatbots, and now these days these chatbots are driven by Gen AI, where the details and the specific cases are added, and the kind of response which had to be generated for the users, like we are mentioning that this is my order ID, or if I'm from the health department, I'm raising some query about my patient, so medical history, the respective response is getting generated. So that was some of the use case for Gen AI which I have worked on.
Very good. Thank you for sharing, Swati, and very useful. I'm sure other people have similar things to say. Pratibha is saying in sports, she has seen hockey. I don't know if she's worked on it or she's used it for her personal experience. Pratibha, can you share a bit more? And Aarti says Izzy is a bot in healthcare. So I'm assuming Aarti works for a healthcare company or has at least used Izzy for her own healthcare.
Pratibha can talk too.
Okay. Pratibha, you want to speak? Pratibha, are you speaking? No, ma'am, I learned an AI course. Okay, all right, no problems. But good examples. I think this is very useful when it comes to knowing that a lot is happening. I think spaces like sports, one of the areas where we might not have heard as much, but now yes. Okay, so let's get into use cases and we can see what I have, and then please keep thinking about more AI use cases and keep sharing. It'll be really useful for even me to learn that that is the name of the tool or it exists in the industry for your organization. everybody may not know name of every tool in this area, right? It is the fast, ever growing, I think, field. Artificial and intelligent use cases can be of many types, right? When it comes to something called selective, it could be that within the company you have used it. Like, for example, I think somebody said, my company used this recruitment tool and now we are selling it. Very, very niche could be where you are using it for a very specific purpose in like sports, right? Not always be deployable to other areas. Conventional, right? A lot of people use it, a lot of people are adopting it, and like the chatbots, right? Everybody uses it. I think every company would have at least one chatbot now, if so to say. And then is disruptive, like our Gen AI, which comes and changes the whole game, right? For a chatbot, possibly I was saying, hey, what is a policy? And the chatbot gave me the policy. Today, for a disruptive AI use case in the same space, a Gen AI for a policy will say that, what is the policy? It will throw you the policy. The moment you will say, I don't understand, it will interpret the policy for you. It will find out what more can be done in that area. It will find out best practices from industry for that policy and give you those forward and say, this is how you should make it. So these are the types where various use cases can be fitted into the AI use cases, and a lot of progress has been done. I think every time a new case comes and disrupts the place becomes really, something where the new is awaited. That's where we are, I think, doing. And who knows, right? There's a very interesting, I'll share the link also with you guys on the chat. There's a very interesting TED talk, right? It is about how artificial intelligence is really very intelligent, but shockingly very stupid, okay? That it is not able to do the basics or not able. Have you guys heard this TED talk? Okay, I'll type, maybe I'll share in the chat the link towards the end, and you can go through it after the session at your leisure. But that is what, right? I mean, and maybe there is something where the speaker says maybe there's something which can come and really disrupt the whole place. More can happen in this area, and we are just at the beginning, right? So that's where we are. A lot of use cases in this area. I think I was hoping some people come forward from healthcare and banking, because those are like highly hit cases in terms of, for example, in medical, somebody said, I guess, that, somebody used Easy as a chat bot, a virtual assistant. That's the virtual assistant, which helps you in terms of your healthcare, right? It can help you predict what kind of medicines should you take, what is your health type, how are you doing when it comes to a particular disease, and it can really suggest first few course of actions before you really get to a practitioner for very, very specific advice. And even it can help a practitioner saying what kind of advising to be done, what is being written on a topic, and where to find more research material, etc. So this is how healthcare is. But more importantly, there are a good number of AI cases which we can see in medical image analysis and reading. So the X-ray reports, the MRI reports are very complex to read, and only a specialized doctor must read it for a good diagnosis, right? And saying this is a disease, it has to be treated this way and all that. But AI is able to do it. Now, keep in mind that AI will read it, but we have to again keep on applying our intelligence to say whether what is being read is right or not, because AI is still evolving. But yes, a lot of breakthrough has happened in healthcare when it comes to treatment of the patients in the hospital. Even in India, we see that a lot of hospitals have started using robotic surgeries, medical image analysis, AI tools in these areas and stuff like that. A drug discovery is one such area where people really used to spend number of years, because we saw in pandemic, right? We were really looking for a vaccination, and we were really thinking whether it will come by so soon, because all of us were sure that a vaccine takes at least 10 to 12 years, 20 years of research and then comes into picture, but it came in being faster. Now, I'm not saying that the AI research was applied there or not. Maybe there was in the background, but this is one area where a drug discovery, a vaccine creation can be faster because AI is able to do a lot of tasks that human took for a number of years. Now, whether experiment has to be done in a lab or not, definitely, but the outcome of that test from the lab and an outcome of that to be translated into not only one drug but into many drugs can be done faster with an AI. So this is how it is disrupting and impacting the healthcare industry. Banking industry, I think a lot of us have seen that, a lot of banks say, okay, we'll give you a loan, we'll not give you the loan, we'll give the loan to a person type and another portfolio type. And, a lot of it is because information is also on internet through, say, Sybil, through other ways where the data is captured, and a lot of algorithms are working in the background to say that whether this person should get a loan or not, and you may get a defaulted action by this consumer if you give the loan, right? So those kind of analysis are possible. Fraud detection. So in so much of currency gets exchange, right, because of money transactions across banks, and it's really difficult to find out if all the transactions are done for the right reason or not, whether this money was transferred from bank A to bank B for a personal help or to basically support a terrorist attack, right? So fraud detection or detection of malpractices in hundreds and thousands and lakhs of, rather millions of transactions, right? Because I think all of us are doing every day something or the other on our mobile and saying that I want to transfer this one, I want to pay that guy, I want to, purchase this thing, I want to do an FD, I want a lot. So all those transactions are monitored by AI, and quickly AI is able to detect and flag saying this looks like a fraudulent transaction. Banks are able to do a bit of more safeguarding of not only the funds of the customers, but also their own reputation, the larger good of somebody not funding it for a false reason or to a bad organization and stuff like that. Sarah has shared an example of AI portfolio advisor in bank. Very good use case. Sarah, if you want to speak, please do. If you're using it, right, and if you want to speak, or if you're using it for personal reasons or working for a company that has an AI portfolio advisor, please speak. But while she indicates whether she would like to speak or not, I wanted to add, yes, not only that the portfolio advisor is an AI, right, is an AI, but also the kind of reports and the trending that happens. Sure, Sarah, thanks for that. And it's a good example, I would say, to remind me, because one of the areas where, how will a stock perform? Should you really invest in a stock and all that is now being looked at not only for the consumer, like Sarah is using for her person, but for the organization, saying invest in it and this is how it will trend. Why? Because it is able to read through a lot of information in and out. This information is not directly, remember, this information is not directly only with the financial numbers. It is also about, say, for example, a company, right? It is not only how the stock is performing, but how the company is performing, how employees at the company are doing, how engaged are they, are they really going on, who knows, right? A vacation from the social platform and doing a lot of analysis around lot of data that exists related to that particular organization to say, yes, this is the fund which will really grow in future and the other one may not, right? So this is another disrupted place, and we thought fund managers, they lose the job. But I think as it is said, AI is here for us to take decisions, for us to make our life more better in terms of, spending time on things which really matter. Like, for example, for a fund manager, interaction with the customer should be more important than sitting and thinking and doing the analysis on which portfolio and what fund and what stocks, right? So AI can do that part, whereas the fund manager will do the, the talking and discussing part. Transport, I'll not touch. We touched upon a lot of example of it, and some of you really also talked about it. I think this is one of the easiest ones we all have seen. I think a bit of AI portfolio advisor is also more like finance, the risk analysis, right? Algorithm tracking the trending of the whole things are examples on the finance side. But I really wanted to talk about two important ones which really touch us, our lives on a daily basis. For example, e-commerce, right? Now, I think have you seen that video where Amazon has opened an Amazon Go outlet where you don't even have to pay at the time of exit while taking the whole purchase outright? Asta says yes. So that is where the technology is. So if you have an Amazon card, and you just have to get inside the Amazon Go store with the Amazon card, whatever you will pick in that store will automatically be calculated as yes, Sujata, it is a computer vision application, and it basically how it works is on the shelves, the stuff is kept, the products are kept. If you go and pick up a product, the sensors basically recognize the product and say, now on this shelf, there is one product less, so please fill in the shelf. For the user, it will say, hey, Avantika has picked up the product and this is the price of the product, which is pre-coded, pre-listed, and she basically should pay it, and it gets added to my Amazon cart, right? So this is how e-commerce is really evolved. There is no money required. There is no, it is an unmanned outlet. There is no individual who's basically manning the billing desk and all that. Very interesting space, right? We know that we have banks which are fully running on AI with no human beings, and we know that we have manufacturing setups, right? Large industries where there is no human being on the floor, but machines along with AI, right? Robots along with AI are running the whole manufacturing. So coming back to e-commerce, but Alibaba uses AI for recommendation of the product, right, on their portal. So how AI does recommendation is basically it studies the customer, which is repeatedly coming on their portal, and picks up what the customer did on the website. Say previous time I selected a blue shirt and next time I selected a pink shirt. How many times I selected a blue versus pink on various clothes and products and everything. It does a lot of analysis, and then when it comes to recommending me as an individual customer, right? And therefore a different recommendation for say an Astha or Sujata and Sona and other folks, saying that how did they individually behaved on the portal and what should be the recommendation for them, what color of clothes. So maybe Sujata and I go and purchase the same shirt, but the color that Sujata would see would be based on her transactions or interactions with the portal on the previous times versus the color that I will see. The customized text that will cover my attention, right, that will pick up my attention will be different than say Sujata's attention on. So there is a very interesting use case in this area where Alibaba, the e-commerce portal, uses, and I would really say that it is disrupting the whole e-commerce space, the retail sector, because now customer is saying I'm really pampered, right? I really don't want to see the blue shirt if I'm not liking the blue color, and I don't want to tell you. You should know it, right? Hey computer, hey AI, you should know it. That's what happens on the e-commerce platform of Alibaba. Coming to manufacturing setup, the AI solutions are also able to say that when will the breakdown of the machine happen and when should you do the. So these are very deep learning applications based on deep learning. The deep learning solutions are applied to the machine. It checks the machine every day in terms of how it is running. It learns the pattern and is able to predict when should you do the maintenance. It schedules the maintenance of the machine, when should you do it, and is able to predict which part of the machine will go faulty. I think we have one more person who has shared. Preeti has written, was part of a team as product owner that made a third-party app that certified AI filters apart from existing ones for clothing and apparel stores in Shopify. Very good. The themes and filters are generated by learning more about the products uploaded by the stores. Okay, and maybe the next step will be also about the purchasing power of the customers and purchasing styles and behavior of the customers, right, Preeti? Yeah. All right, she says yes. Great. So these are various industries where AI is really making a mark. I think it's everywhere, and not HR. I think somebody already took the HR use case, but I wanted to just quickly, briefly touch upon a little bit because I come from that industry, right? I come from that background, so it's important that I talk about it, and it touches upon each one of us, right? Today, if you are working, whether it's an individual or in a company, you are being touched by any of the HR practices, right from hiring. Somebody said resume screening, talking to the candidate, predicting whether the candidate will be a success for the organization or not, to the time when the person gets into the organization, knowing about their personalized learning styles. No, it is beyond ATS. Vidya, ATS used to only track or hold the candidate's data. But when AI and ATS are combined and are talking to each other, the candidate is being looked at from a holistic point of view. So maybe ATS was only saying what's on the resume, but an AI is also saying along with resume, when I talk to the individual, what kind of vibes I am getting. The person on social is doing this, and therefore would be like an outgoing kind of a person who will take risk and is able to pick up new projects, Vidya. So it's more than just the automated tracking system for a candidate. It's really engaging and finding more about the candidate and therefore predicting. So we'll see that in when we will learn the machine learning. I think today how predictions and you can find out for various products or customers or even candidates, how you can see that. So it is able to predict whether the person will be a success within the organization. Similarly, I was talking about personalized learning. So my learning needs versus Vidya's learning needs will be really different, and what I would prefer would be like a slow pace, my way of learning, whereas Vidya would like more of videos. And I'm just making it up for you, Vidya, just to help everybody understand that both of us need different ways of learning, and AI is able to predict that and is able to personalize our learning and therefore career development. A lot of feedback tools have come into picture where AI is able to track the performance of an individual, and it is also based on my daily interaction with my teammates, the data that AI is able to monitor and gauge, and then is able to predict whether I will be successful when I'm already in the organization. Now, it is not the candidate stage, it is the employee stage, is able to provide feedback and performance in real time. A lot of AI-driven engagement surveys, sentiment analysis on a given day, mood of an employee. A lot of organizations are using these applications to see how engaged their workforce is and what is that to be done differently. Right. So another area that I read a paper on was about compensation. I was thinking that it is one area where there's still lots to happen, but AI has touched even in the area of salary parity, compensation parity across industry for a role, which for a benchmarking study, I would have looked at, okay, only these many companies, okay, how many people in those companies and what is the salary parity, but it is also able to do cross industry referencing, cross company referencing, and is able to give you a much larger landscape when it comes to compensation parity across organizations for a given role, for a given employee, right? Helps in hiring because you're able to say, okay, that one, that company, my company, everyone is doing this way. So how do we better reward the candidate so that they join us, right? Something like that. So these are a couple of HR use cases. A couple of AI tools that I want to talk about, and there are hundreds. I'm just picking up three, but very interesting space. Once again, DID is a tool where you can upload your picture or a couple of pictures, number of pictures, and it converts that set of pictures into a video in minutes. Descript is an AI tool where, for example, you want to create an audio, then you just type the text on the tool and say, convert this into an audio and use Amitabh Bachchan's voice, and it will be able to create an audio for you, which is in Amitabh Bachchan's voice, which you have written as text. Midjourney is a very, very powerful tool which converts text into images. So I think these days when we log in, it says, this image is created by AI. Some of it, yes, insurance is a very good use case, Khushbu. Midjourney, coming back to Midjourney is a very powerful AI tool where you basically given the text to a tool and it is able to use the text to generate an image, right? Or even a lot of images placed side by side. So earlier on, when movies were made, a lot of infrastructure investment was to be done in terms of setting up that stage, right? To make an environment and stuff like that, which is now can be done very, very easily by Midjourney, where you type in the text, it puts in the frame in a way that the whole thing can be used as a background for the, the lead stars of the movie and can just be there for a very, very, so there are only a few movies right now who have used Midjourney as AI tool to use images, AI created images, but it is there, right? So I think the space is really disrupted and I'm sure there's lots which can come. I think some of you are already working, so next couple of slides might be just a refresher, but those who are not, please remember that AI is for everyone. I mean, there are a lot of non-technical people who are wanting to get into AI. What should they do? I think it will be useful to tell you what's in it for me. So if you are someone who have knack for data, because data is the core when it comes to artificial intelligence, if you are someone who is able to build the logic, I mean, if there is a problem given, not necessarily that you code in Python. I think you guys have gone through a course on essentials of Python or Python, you learned Python on the tool, but not necessarily if you really code using Python rubrics and all that, but also at least able to build the logic, then there are tools available which can help you become an AI professional. Need to have a little bit of understanding of algorithms, at least for the first time. So once you understand these algorithms, there are tools available which will run the algorithms in the background. But we need to know what is happening in the background, right? So it's good to understand algorithms and have a knack for problem solving and business acumen. Then this is the space to be. How do you build on it? I think it will be really useful to find. I think some of you are lucky you have internal projects, but if you don't have, it's a good way today that we are coming together and trying to understand what is AI, how do we go about it, what's the scope, and but get into some formal certifications, right? And those can really help you get the kind of job, right? To all those non-technical people. If you go for a certification, recognized certification from a recognized provider, I think that gives you a leeway. It gives you a starting point to get into, and then of course it is about finding the really hands-on project and getting into it so as to get into the career of AI. The space, the Kaggle, the GitHub, and DataCamp are the platforms that basically you may already find some inbuilt AI models kept and placed, and these are some of the say OpenAI and open repositories where you can go and experiment on those models and see and tweak it for your organization. This is another way, if you're a little bit technical and want to explore, use these platforms to pick up the already existing AI models. We will see in large learning models how that comes into really use and handy. So use that, and this can be your way forward to become an AI professional. It really depends, Sarah. It really depends on the industry that you are in. So I would say that if you're really wanting to become an AI certified professional, pick the type. For example, a financial services sector would require a different certification than an HR, right? And therefore, it will be a little bit of research that you have to do. Asta, I will cover large learning models in the next session, so please hold on. But coming back to Sarah, you may have to do a little bit of research on your skill area, domain that you want to stick to, but doing a course will really help get into the actual learning of the artificial intelligence. Any questions here? Khushbu, models are basically the, visualize like this. Have you used any tool for like a Power BI or anything? Khushbu? No. Okay. All right. So imagine there is a tool which gives you a chart in the front, right? In the back end, that chart is calculated on a data. Now, in the interim, basically something happens, right? That is an AI algorithm, rather to be specific, a machine learning algorithm. It could be any type of algorithm. We are going to touch upon a little bit on linear regression today, but there is K-mean, there is Bayes knife algorithms. So these are basically statistical theorems which are now converted into AI algorithms, and then that is able to produce an outcome or a result saying whether somebody will be a fraud or not, somebody will default on the loan or not, right? As an outcome is based on a lot of data that bank had based on various transactions the person did. How that is translated into an outcome saying yes, default is done by the algorithm, mostly in machine learning, which is a model. All right, Khushbu? Yeah, I mean, mostly we call multiple algorithms coming, sitting next to each other, and therefore the whole thing becomes the model, right? Inputting the data, couple of models, couple of algorithms in between, an outcome is the model. Okay. How AI is used in communications industry a lot. I'm assuming, Nimita, when you say communications, you mean media, you mean social, right? So blog writing, content creation. AI is able to write blogs. AI is able to create content. AI is able to create pictures. The video, like just now I talked about those three AI tools, can be used in communications. Telecommunications, do you mean Airtels and Vodafones of the world? Then I talked about the chatbot use cases. The call log, etc., is being studied, and a prediction can be made, and AI can really help you with at least the front ending in terms of activating the SIM payment of bills and stuff like that. Nimita, what are the skills required? Okay, I think prompt engineering, large learning models for the next time. We are here, but we need to go a little longer way. I just have about 20 more minutes. And I want to cover a little bit on machine learning and linear regression just for folks, I think, who want to get into it and give you the flavor as to how it works. But don't worry, I mean, if you find it difficult, you don't have to really remember it because that's where AI is for, right? So, okay, Deepika, I think I don't remember exactly, but I think semiconductor industry is very easy because chips are the ones, right? You put the chips and I mean, there is an experiment which is going on where the chip is being placed inside the human, saying how the human will behave and they're reading the signals and so it's a very, very nascent stage that I remember, but chips are used in many ways, like semiconductors can be a good idea, a good research area in the self-driving cars, right? Vehicles, transportation, these can be areas where AI and semiconductors can come together and give some outcome, right? I forgot who was it. Was it Deepika? Yeah, Deepika. Sujata, what are the job chances for long career gap and non-experience? What is the right approach? I would say, Sujata, this is a topic for a different forum, but we can always talk about it. I would say just stay motivated, keep learning as you are learning right now, and I'm sure things will fall in place, Sujata. All right, so once you learn a little bit of AI, invest a bit more in terms of certifications, maybe learn a couple of tools, a couple of things that come to my mind, and free of cost tools, guys, I'm talking about are basically Nime and Alteryx. These are very plug and play, very, very useful tools. You can go ahead and use those. It's plug and play. Just download and start working on it. There is a Copilot is linked to it, so you can always type and say, "Can you give me how do I use the tool? Okay, I'll type it for you. But there can be many, okay? To begin with, at least start reading about these and you can learn more. Some of the roles that come up in AI sector are data engineers, of course, very important because they structure the data and then only data scientists are able to run the whole thing on the models. Data scientists create those models, AI models, but it is not possible without the structuring, cleaning up, formatting, and making the data in the right shape available for data scientists. AI architects, ML engineers, ML ops, big data and machine learning, these are various combinations, right, where roles are coming. Somebody asked for prompt engineering. Prompt engineering itself is like highly paid right now, basically a stream where a lot of people are finding their careers. It's a good field to be, and high paying jobs. I wouldn't say that look for salary, but look for what excites you, what contents you, but these are high in demand jobs, right? So that's what I wanted to talk about. Let us quickly see. We have about 15 minutes. I will see how much can I cover on machine learning. Otherwise, we will pick up in the next class, right? We anyways have another session. So any questions before I jump into the next one, or can I move on? Okay. All right, so we saw that machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence, which basically focuses on using the algorithms and models, right? And then computer is able to predict whether it's a spam or not, whether it's a fraud or not, whether there'll be a default in the loan type or not, etc., etc. So that is machine learning. But that's a very large umbrella. What exactly is machine learning, right? It has 4 subsets. Some materials would say 3, some would say 4. Largely, a supervised, unsupervised, and reinforced learning is what is considered as subset of machine learning. Only a few materials you will find semi-supervised learning as one of the machine learning way, right? Or model or whatever subset you want to call it. So when you, like I said, when you have a picture of a cat and you as an individual go ahead and tag the picture as cat, or dog or whatever, then you are giving the input to a machine, right? Saying this is how you should read the picture, as this is a picture of cat. It is a supervised learning. When a computer itself understands, right, and learns from the data that is there, from the past data, is able to use deep learning to arrive at a conclusion, it is unsupervised learning. Supervised is when we are giving the input. Unsupervised is machine is or computer is able to find out the patterns and is able to understand the data. Unsupervised learning, but semi-supervised would be somewhere in the middle, like half unlabeled data. The complete data is not categorized. Some is categorized, and then machine basically picks up the sample ones and extrapolates it. Every time will it extrapolate it right or not? We have to really check it. That is where our role will come in as a human being, because it is difficult minded, because we are not talking about hundreds of line items to read and all that. We are talking about trillions of data points. So it is difficult, but basically then you tell the computer right things to in the form of these algorithms, and that's when semi-supervised learning comes into picture, right? Reinforcement learning is where the machine self-interprets the whole system and basically is able to give output on the basis of trial and error, right? So some of the algorithms are mentioned under these, and these are the algorithms you learn when you really get deeper into artificial intelligence and you want to learn a lot about what is the technical side of AI. If you don't want to learn about it, it's perfectly fine. I'm sharing because you should know, right? I mean, largely you would like to know how an AI tool really gave the output. So supervised learning is done by using algorithms such as linear regression, vector machines, and decision tree. Unsupervised learning is done by, say, k-means clustering, neural networks, right? We heard these terms during our discussion. Semi-supervised learning is something like self-trained Naive-Bayes, generative adversarial networks. Reinforcement learning can be done by Q-learning and model-based estimations, right? So there are various ways machine learning models can run. We are not able to cover everything, right? We will not be able to, and I think it is not useful for us. What is useful is to know it and then use tools, the ones I said, right? And the likes of these, or get into a situation where inside your organization you have tools which use, right, these algorithms, because we don't have to, like I said, we don't have to remember these. We need to know it, how it works once at least, right? So use those tools, and then the tool will do that whole wonder or magic, as you may want to call it, for you and give you the outcome. But yes, you need to learn the tool then. All right. So in machine learning, I said 3 to 4 ways. Principally 3 ways. A semi-supervised is somewhere here in the middle or not. And then we will touch upon linear regression in detail, right? So, but in order to go to linear regression, you need to know what is linear regression, how a data is selected for linear regression. So in machine learning, data can be anything, and it works on both, all data types, I should say, not both. Data could be text. Of course, text is a data, we know. Numbers are data, but data can be videos and images and voice data, right? So the one way to say, for my business situation, I'll go ahead and pick up this ML model, say from GitHub, and apply to my business solution and already existing, is based on the type of data you have. So first you can decide what is the type of data existing within my organization, right? A lot of PDFs, a lot of Excels, a lot of Word documents, sometimes hard copies, which first have to be scanned and then read. Specifically can happen in the healthcare industry, because you may have those reports in the hard copy, right? The MRI, the X-rays and all that. Those are not converted to anything which is, so first you scan the report and then basically that becomes your text, right? So how will you decide what kind of a model out of the ones we saw on the previous slide, based on either the data or the problem? So data is, I talked about what could be data. What is a problem, right? Problem is, what do I want to achieve in my company, right? In my company, I'm a bank, and I really want to say that I will give the loan, I will give a savings bank account to this person or not. I want to give, I want to allow more products to this individual or not. It is a problem of predicting, right? Whether the customer will default or not. I'm an e-commerce company and I want more sale, but at the same time, I want to recommend more things to the customer so that they buy more things from me. Recommendation problem, right? So then these are the ways you look at the whole scenario and decide which model to apply out of this. Is this understood? If you can give me yes or no, I know it is becoming okay. All right. Thank you, Sujata. Thank you, Lavina, Mona, Preeti, Vijaya. All right. So yes, so this is how we basically get into first place. What, if these are the kind of models available, if these are so many models, which model and all that, I think we decide based on these 2 parameters. One second, there is a quick chat here I wanted to read. Feeding an image of a cat with the label cat also involves deep learning, as we are not providing specific features of, yes, of course, at the next step, yes. Instead, model learns and extract the feature itself to predict it. That is, yes, that is true. But I was more talking about, oh, is it a question? I thought it is true, but if it is deep learning applied, but I was talking more about labeling of the data for ease of understanding of the audience. But Payasi, you are absolutely right. When computer has to recognize that it is a picture of the cat, it will have to read all the bytes, right, of the picture. The very, very small things which we call byte, it'll read, which is normally a binary function, 1 and 0, 1 and 0, depending on where 0 is, where is 1, the computer will read it and give it the output. Payasi, was that the question or something else? We are not giving the features of the cat. Yeah, we are not giving the features of the cat. We give the input in the form of a number, or, then the computer reads that number as a byte. Input is in terms of byte and output is in terms of recognizing the pattern, how those bytes of 1 and 0s are placed. And therefore, this is a cat. Do you understand? Okay. All right. So coming back to where we were on machine learning model, and we said that if there are so many models, how will I select it? You can select it based on the data, which could be text, numbers, videos, images, voice data, or whatever today, right? And then it could be related to the business problem that you're facing. It's a recommendation, prediction, or something, right? Or you want to solve something else. So if that is a thing, we need to know so there'll be an outcome, and then you will pick up one of the algorithms out of this and say, okay, this fits into my scenario because I have supervised learning possible. I have completely unstructured data, I have whatever, and then you will pick up the outcome. So I'm going to touch upon only one, which is the first one under supervised learning. I'm going to pick up only linear regression, and we will see how linear regression works for, very, very simple problem like, for example, I want to purchase a car, and if I have to, you can quickly type in the chat box. Okay, for example, I want to purchase a car, and I want to select a car. So what all will I think about when it comes to purchase of the car? So purchase of the car is the situation for you, and what all will you think when it comes to buying the car? Can you give me something like the color and the price and all that? What all will you think? Mileage, Geeta, thank you. Color, okay. Okay, size. Can I park it in my parking or not, right? Brand, color, mileage, model, okay. Whether my family will like it or not, right? My kid would like to get a sunroof because he wants to stand. The features, yeah. Whether it'll be automatic or that, the key start, right? So now, can you imagine? It is just one thing that we are trying, servicing, after sales, right? Yeah, some selected attributes. I would say I want the screen in front, and I want an AC at the back. I want 3 airbags, and I don't want, one only at the driver's seat, and hundreds of things, right? Even in this chat, we have written more than one parameter. So if purchase of car was dependent variable, there are so many independent variables which will decide whether I will buy or not, right? Have you understood this thing? Purchase of the car is dependent on various parameters which are independent: the size, the color, the shape, the mileage, my family's preferences and all that. So that is what is linear regression all about. It is basically a formula where a dependent and independent variable come into being. The function of the two is interpreted by the relationship between the two variables. So here Y is your purchasing of the car, X is your independent variables, which is basically the color and size and cost and price and mileage, etc. But what is the relationship between two? If I will I be able to easily say that every time the mileage goes up, everybody will purchase the car? Not necessarily, right? There is some relationship. So other factors also come into play. That is where the intercept of the slope, intercept where the x-axis cuts the y-axis, and the slope of the line plays a lot of role. That is how linear regression works. So let me just see if I have a Word document open. If you had lots of data, right, and you wanted to plot it on an x-axis and y-axis, you would plot something like this and say, when mileage goes up, sale of the car goes up, right? This is for one parameter, and we've looked at how many parameters, right? Countless. So for everything, I'll have to draw a chart like this, right? Which is not possible. Therefore, we go to algorithm of linear regression, tell it to an AI tool and say, can you read for me everything? The cost of the car will go more, the sale of the cars may go down, right? The color of the color of the car is red. More people will buy red color. I don't know, right? But these could be interlinked also, that mileage of the car, color of the car, and cost of the car put together can be a situation where somebody will purchase, which is right, because all of us said that we'll not look at one parameter, we look at multiple parameters. So this is where learning linear regression comes in. For a normal data point, like if we had only 2 data points like this, okay, the cost of the car versus say purchase of the car, then we will plot everything and say, see where maximum points are going. Maximum points are here. These are my outliers, right? These are the outliers. You can see it on the screen, right? So I'll say maximum, this is my good fit model. This is my prediction line, which will cut across the y-axis on little above 0, and it will go as a slope like this. And this is my model, right? Linear regression. So you remember this chart, scatter plot from your early childhood days, right? We would have studied in our mathematics classes. But here the problem is not as easy. Purchase of the car is not one parameter problem. It is multiple parameter problem across multiple people, multiple customers wanting to do different things, right? It may not be classification because you're just not wanting to say whether it will purchase or not. We are trying to say whether the purchase is dependent on many other parameters. It is classification from a financial point of view, right? A finance person would say, should I let the person buy the car with a home loan? And then I say, okay, car loan, yes or no, classification problem, right? But when I say whether the person will really purchase the car, right? That depends on many other things than just saying cost of the car or only the color and all. The other problem with this discussion at hand is the color of car cannot be plotted. Can you plot a red here and green here and all that? Can you plot, my family son wants sunroof and my daughter wants, no, right? But we can plot, say, for example, mileage, right? More mileage, less mileage, 3 kilometer, 5 kilometer, 20 kilometer, right? We can do that. Things which cannot be plotted have to be converted to numerals first. So first we will say red will be called a 1, green will be called a 2. Like that, you will assign some dummy numbers so as to make it interpretable by algorithm of AI. Okay, so this is how we work on the data in linear regression, in algorithms, where any algorithms, right? Not only linear, any algorithms, any algorithms, you'll encounter a parameter, which is a text. Then you convert, assign a dummy variable number to it and say, this is, so from today onwards for this problem, I'll call a red a 1, right? So that I can do something about it. I can plot a chart and say, yes, more ones are purchasing the car, right? And multiple, when it comes to multiple parameters coming together, it is a complex problem. You and I cannot solve it, right? Outside the system. Since we cannot solve it outside the system, we go to tools, and that is where AI comes in handy, because it can read a plane, a plane like this, a plane which has color, which has mileage, which has cost at one point of time, which human brain cannot calculate. It has to calculate multiple parameters differently, different charts. An AI can calculate everything put together on one. It is called a hyperbola. It is called a plane. It's called a plane, right? So multiple parameters at the same time. You can imagine 3D, 4D, right? And therefore, it's so many parameters. You cannot even imagine what would be a plane. It will mean multiple parameters. These are the kind of situations where our linear regression comes into play, and it is applied. So I said to keep certain things in mind, that there should be a linear relationship between the variables under the algorithm. They should be they should be independent of each other. There shouldn't be any significant outliers. It should be falling through the line. So, I mean, of course, I'm not getting too technical, but what I'm trying to say is, have you understood the crux, right? That if you have even a smallest of decision, purchase of the car, and it is really a complex outcome, AI can really read through using everything together and give an outcome. Khushbu says no. So Khushbu, what did you not understand? If you can share, I can maybe try and explain it again. But this is how algorithm will work. This simple statement of y equal to a plus bx, which is what our linear regression is, will then becomes complex, because first x1 is our price, x2 is our feature, x3 is color, x4 is, and so on and so forth, right? So that complex problem, complex algorithm of linear regression, AI can solve with no time. And I said, if you use tools like KNIME and Alteryx, you are able to do it just by a click of a button, right? So the equation becomes y equal to a plus b x1 plus b x2 plus b x3 and so on and so forth, which is really difficult for a human mind to calculate. So we use AI, right? And then this is how it works in the background. I think someone was talking about it, that what gets into a model, this is what gets into a model in a layman's term, and few terms to know. I'm not spending much of time, but once you will learn, I think you will really become, it'll really become easy for you to find out some of the terms. So when the tool gives you an outcome, it gives you a prediction. It will not give you whether Avantika will buy the car. Okay, it will not say Avantika will buy the car. It will say, Avantika, the probability of prediction, my prediction probability of Avantika buying the car is 90% versus Sujata buying the car is 95%, Deepika buying the car is 80%, right? So this is how the outcome would be. And the model will be able to predict and say who's a more likely customer to buy a car with a combination of red versus 50% mileage and price hike of to 20% and stuff like that, and it gives an output. So I hope you got a crux of what I was trying to achieve by giving you a sense of one algorithm in artificial intelligence. Some yeses and no will help. Okay. All right. Thank you, Deepa and Khushbu, Sarah. So there's a question on the chat. We are almost towards the end. I'll request Avneet to take over after. Okay, thank you. Somebody answered ENF, CNF. We'll go one by one. So machine learning is a direct subset of AI. Is this true or false? Machine learning is a direct superset of AI. So it is false, right? Machine learning is a direct superset of deep learning. This is correct. BCF. Machine learning is a direct subset of AI. Very good. This is correct. Sarah. Deep learning is a direct superset of AI is wrong. Deep learning is a direct subset of AI is wrong. Whereas deep learning is a direct subset of machine learning is right. Absolutely. Whoever said BCF is right. Okay. How many types of machine learning? Between 3 and 4. I give it to 3 because we started 4 here. We can even have an answer as 4. But like I said, semi-supervised is not completely recognized as one of the study items. But yeah, I mean, you can have that because in a real life scenario, you can have data which is not labeled completely. We didn't study least square, so I'll skip this one. And okay, we didn't go into detail. The time did not permit. Okay, but somebody did answer. We try and minimize the least square of, absolutely right. In linear regression, we try to minimize the least square error of the model to get a best fit line. We said, right, there shouldn't be many outliers. And when the errors between the predicted value, which is the line, and the output value, which is the dots, is less, it is a best model. Very good. Thank you, Deepika and Geetanjali, for answering this. And okay, all right. I think this is good for today, and I'll stop sharing. Avneet, if you can take over.
Thank you so much, Avantika. I'm sure there was a lot of learning included, and the quizzes and questions have added a lot more activity with.
Thank you, Avneet. So yeah, we meet next time then. Sorry, I can't hear you. Did you say bye? All right. So I think a lot of people are saying thank you and bye. I'm not able to hear Avneet, so I'll be dropping. Thank you for attending my session, guys, and see you next time. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm so sorry. I think I got dropped out. Okay, ladies, I think Avantika has also left the session. Thank you so much. And to those of you who have any questions for extra session on Python and data science on 16 hours, Deepika, give me a call. We'll discuss this. To let you know, your next SME session is on 2nd of July. Please make a